Sometimes we forget that thousands of federal employees go to work every day with the sole mission to make this country a safer place to live. Ms. Deborah Autor is one of those employees. As we enter into the cold and flu season, there is great concern about harmful medications that may fall into the hands of our children and other loved ones. As director of the Food and Drug Administration's Drug Compliance Office, Ms. Autor works to protect public health by minimizing Americans' exposure to unsafe, ineffective, and poor quality drugs that enter into the marketplace. Ms. Autor is particularly focused on removing potentially dangerous prescription medicines, including cough medicines, anti-inflammatory drugs, antihistamines, and migraine medications, just to name a few. Under her leadership, the FDA has taken enforcement action to remove more than 500 unapproved prescription drugs from the market. She is also credited with designing the program used to identify unapproved drugs, evaluate the public health consequences, and explore any potential legal challenges. Many believe that Ms. Autor is the brains behind FDA's aggressive enforcement efforts. In conducting the research for these remarks, we found a quote from Mr. Stephen Galson, a former acting U.S. Surgeon General. This is what he had to say about Ms. Autor. She developed the program under budget constraints, withstood scrutiny and criticism from some in the drug industry and Congress, successfully navigated the internal FDA process, and took aggressive action to clamp down on illegal drug marketers. And there are many others who have sang her praises and highlighted her commitment to public service. Prior to work at the FDA, Ms. Autor was a trial attorney for she served for 7 years. In this role, she litigated civil and criminal cases on behalf of the FDA. I hope my colleagues will join me in honoring Ms. Autor for her dedicated public service and important contributions to our nation's health and safety. I would also add, Mr. President, that in these challenging fiscal times, as we go through the holiday season, I hope we all recognize the enormous contribution that all of our federal employees make. The presiding officer many times reminds all of us of that enormous contribution that our men and women in the armed services play, and our thoughts and prayers are with all of them. But I think it's also important to recognize these great federal employees like Ms. Autor and literally the countless others who also oftentimes for somewhat at the disdain at folks in elective office, but these are the folks who provide enormous public service to all Americans, and I hope that we keep them in our thoughts as well during this holiday season. I also want to thank, before I conclude my remarks, my friend the senator from Vermont, who is a passionate advocate for trying to end the kind of growing income inequality in this country. I know he's going to be making impassioned comments coming up, and I appreciate him giving me a couple moments to recognize this federal employee, and I look forward to hearing his comments. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.